Andy, how do you combat the destabilisation of deadly nuclear proliferation? Well, Iran nuclear scientist news now! You kill people, Andy. That seems to be our best guess at the moment. Kill people. You bump people off like B-movie baddies. Iranian nuclear scientists have been dropping like flies who were covertly assassinated by Mossad over the last few months. In fact, just this week, Mustafa Ahmadi Roshan, who worked at the Nanats uranium enrichment facility, had 2 men on motorcycles attach a magnetic bomb to his car during morning rush hour and then detonate it outside a university campus. He died along with the driver of the car. Iran immediately pointed the finger straight at Israel and the US, who in turn gasped in disbelief that Iran could ever think that they would do such a thing, only just stopping short of pulling out an Elizabethan ladies' fan and swooning on the speaker's podium. In fact, National Security Council spokesman Tommy Viator said the United States had absolutely nothing to do with this. We strongly condemn all acts of violence, including acts of violence like this. Going on to say, sorry, I take that back. I did not mean to say including awesome acts of violence like this. What's that? I didn't say awesome? Oh, good, because I was deliberately trying not to say that. It wasn't easy, Andy, for him to pull a sombre denial like that off, as I'm fairly sure there was a leftover party popper streamer hanging off his shoulder from the celebration party for the dead scientist news that had just been held in the Situation Room 20 minutes before.
But Israel is being slightly less good at camouflaging its glee at these matters. On Tuesday, an Israeli general by the name of Benny Gantz was quoted as telling a parliamentary panel that 2012 would be a critical year for Iran, in part because of, quotes, things that happened to it unnaturally. I mean, might as well have said that while smoking a massive cigar, whilst 2 massive goons in dark glasses behind him chewed gum aggressively before knocking a vase off a shelf and saying, "Comprendo."
Iranian Vice President Mohammad Reza Rahimi said on state TV that the bomb attack would not stop progress in the country's nuclear program before diving for cover and squealing when a car backfired outside. I mean, he's right, Andy. It might not stop progress in their nuclear program, but it is sure as shit going to make it harder to make progress in terms of convincing people to want to work there. Good luck with that situation's vacant job posting, Andy. Nuclear scientists needed to work in the nuclear program of the Islamic Republic of Iran must have ability to enrich uranium for energy and or nuclear weapon, and also have the ability to dodge relentless assassination attempts from the CIA or Mossad agents. Must have degree in nuclear physics and black belt in jiu-jitsu. Previous job occupant died in a car bomb. This kind of job performance will not be tolerated again. Good sense of humour required, no Jews. Incidentally, that last sentence was not a joke.
Well, that's true, isn't it? But if we have learned one thing this week, then it has to be careful where you take a waz. And really, if in doubt, just hold it in until you find a urinal or somewhere without dead bodies in the way. But if there's another thing we've learnt, it's that if you're a Conservative leader announcing you're going to clamp down on executive pay, there is a danger you'll be viewed not so much as the boy who cried wolf, as the boy who's been feeding tasty scraps of prime steak to the wolf for years before letting the wolf out and saying, "Look out, folks, little fangy Frank has built up a little bit of an appetite." But if there's another thing we've learned, John, it's that being a top-level nuclear scientist in Iran is not all glamour, particularly if you're not assassination-proof, as you suggested.
Iran, in response to this, announced this week that it has begun uranium enrichment at the Fordo nuclear facility, at which point all Iranian nuclear scientists really should have been instantly checking underneath their cars. And this was clearly intended as a slap in the face to the US, and the relationship between Iran and the US has reached a new level of tension in recent weeks. You build a nuclear facility, we're going to kill your scientists. You kill our scientists, we're going to close the Strait of Hormuz. You close the Strait of Hormuz, we're going to increase sanctions. You increase sanctions, we're going to build another nuclear facility. You build another nuclear facility, we're going to kill another one of your scientists. Okay, we get it. You push each other's buttons. The US and Iran are like Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall in all those old movies. Sure, they squabble a lot, and they may even give each other a slap on the face occasionally. But deep down you suspect that all that tension comes from the fact that they really want to bang each other. And when it comes to the US and Iran, perhaps in a truly explosive sense, they literally want to bang the shit out of each other, Andy, with some of the loudest bangs that mankind can ever create.
A bit like Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton all over again, but more so.
Now is not the time for Iran to be calling America's bluff over this stuff, because when it comes to US presidential years, tread carefully. This is literally historically bang season. A US intelligence expert from Georgetown said, with little other basis for criticising President Barack Obama's foreign policy successes, including the completing the withdrawal from Iraq and eliminating Osama bin Laden, all of the Republican candidates, except for Ron Paul, are trying to outdo each other in sounding bellicose about Iran. The candidates, Andy, are basically ripping their shirts open, oiling up their chests and flexing their muscles whilst desperately suppressing the temptation to acknowledge how ironically homoerotic that is. Rick Santorum, in a debate this last week, said of the Iranian assassinations that he hoped America was behind them. And he's also said in the past that, on occasion, scientists working on nuclear programs in Iran turn up dead. I think that's a wonderful thing, candidly. And bear in mind, this is coming from a man who is strongly pro-life, Andy. That's how strongly he feels about this.
Pro-life, unless it's out of the womb, in the traditional Republican manner. The Pentagon has denied they were involved in the motorbike assassinations. A Pentagon spokesman claimed it was merely a particularly spicy hot chili sizzler pizza, rather than a covert program of targeted killings. Just to be on the safe side, the Pentagon has advised all Iranians just to order plain margaritas from pizza delivery boys for the next few weeks, just to be on the safe side. And in other nuclear news, the president of the Royal Society of Chemistry in Britain has claimed that evil villains in James Bond films have cast a long-lasting shadow over the image of nuclear power. He claimed that the popularity of Dr. No in 1962 created a lastingly negative image of nuclear power as something that could be wielded by dangerous megalomaniacs with aspirations to world domination. To be honest, I don't think the blame can be pinned solely on Dr. No for that. I think the Cuban Missile Crisis might have had something to do with that as well. And even if it is the case, you shouldn't be blaming Bond. You should be blaming declining standards in the human brain. If people are prepared to take their nuclear science from a spy movie.
Are we sure the man who said that is an actual professor, Andy, and he didn't just buy that title from the internet? Or are we absolutely sure that it wasn't his 12-year-old son who had hijacked his email somehow and released a statement about James Bond?
I don't know, but I look forward to seeing his lecture to NASA about Moonraker.